So I'm wearing this rather striking shirt that was given to me by a Cree medicine man, friend of mine, Vern Harper, who I've known for many years. He's a rather well-known spiritual leader among the Cree people in the Toronto area. I'm up in Canada now, running a retreat in Niagara Falls. And I'll be seeing him in just a week when the retreat's over, because we offer, as a feature of our retreats here in Canada, the opportunity for our retreatants to participate in a traditional Native American sweat lodge ceremony. It's not a required piece of the retreat, but if they want to stay on after the retreat ends, we go to some property that he owns, and he does a sweat lodge for us. The same thing happens when I run retreats in Arizona. I have a Tohono O'odham medicine man named Rupert Encinas, who I've known for 27 years. He does the same thing for my retreats in Tucson, Arizona. In fact, I just saw Rupert just 1 week ago. I just completed running a retreat in Arizona, and indeed we had a sweat lodge ceremony there too. It was with Rupert in Arizona that I had my first experience of the Native American sweat lodge, which pretty much convinced me that this is something for me. I would say that the sweat lodge ceremony, which the Lakota people call Inipi, I-N-I-P-I, literally in their language meaning a tool for life. I would say that the sweat lodge ceremony is the representative spiritual practice of the Americas. It's done all the way from Canada down into Mexico, if not further into South America. I don't know about the southernmost part of the Americas, but it's certainly for Mexico and North America absolutely representative. In fact, in Los Angeles, where I come from, there is a canyon in Southern California called Temescal Canyon, which is from the Mexican-Spanish temescal. Temescal is the Spanish word, at least in Latin America, for the sweat lodge. It's an Aztec word from the Aztec Temazcali, meaning a hothouse, literally. How I got involved in this was that 27 years ago, I was running retreats in Arizona, and I was using the ranch of a man named Doug Boyd, who has written some books about Native American spiritual leaders. And Doug had this idea that Buddhist leaders should be getting together with Native American leaders. So he said, after your retreat, if you want, I can have a local Tohono O'odham Indian. I can have a local medicine man run a sweat lodge for your retreatants. I didn't know what a sweat lodge was. I said, well, what is it? He described it to me. It's in some ways like a sauna, in that there are hot rocks and water is poured. But whereas the sauna is a secular event, the sweat lodge is a deeply transformative spiritual event with prayers, songs, and a kind of shared energy. So he explained to me the sweat lodge and the mechanics of it, and it sounded interesting. And he said, you were very fortunate. I know this local spiritual leader here in Arizona, Rupert Encinas, and he is a veteran sun dancer in addition to being a sweat lodge leader. I said, what's a sun dance? And he described to me this almost inconceivable shamanic ordeal that Plains Indians do called the sun dance. And he said Rupert has done this many years. Actually, at this point, Rupert's done it 18 years. He's done 18 sun dances, each one of which involves 4 days in the blazing sun without food or liquid and with pierces through you that have to be torn out. According to the Lakota tribe, anyway, you have to do 4 years of sun dancing before you're qualified to lead a sweat lodge. As I say, Rupert has now done 18 years, which is, by the way, the difference between doing sweat lodges with native people and doing sweat lodges with incompetent non-native people. There's absolutely no danger whatsoever. I've been sweating for 27 years, starting with Rupert, and I've never, ever heard of any even minor physical problems developing as the result of a traditional sweat run by competently trained native people. But you see the kind of training you have to go through before they'll give you the responsibility of running a sweat lodge is pretty amazing. So Doug described the sweat lodge, he described Rupert's qualifications, and it sounded interesting. It seemed to make sense to me. So we had our Vipassana retreat, and then Rupert came over and they had a sweat lodge at Doug's ranch, the physical structure. It's sort of dome-shaped, and it's got a dug-out area in the middle where the grandfathers are the hot rocks. They're looked upon as the oldest people on the planet. They're addressed as people when they're brought in. They're sort of they're taken back to their original condition of being hot, the way they were at the beginning of the earth. They're heated in a fire, and then they're brought in. And this water is poured on them that gives off an intense steam that is called the breath of the grandfathers. And so these ancient ones breathe on you, and that purifies you physically and psychospiritually. That's sort of the model, how they look upon it. We took the group into the lodge, and he did that ceremony. And I remember coming out of the lodge, the first thought that occurred to me in talk space was this joking thought, okay, this irony thought. Oh, so this is what they call primitive religion. Because I can remember when I was young reading about the religion of tribal peoples under the title primitive religion. So it's like, and I saw that word primitive in quotes. And the joke was that it was one of the most sophisticated and subtle and advanced spiritual modalities I'd ever encountered.